Approximately 20% of kids are afraid to go to school after a school shooting. What's interesting about that, though, is 35% of their parents are afraid. Many parts of the brain are implicated after trauma occurs. So the parts of the brain that are implicated are, our frontal cortex, which is involved in thinking, the amygdala, which is our emotional center of the brain, and the hippocampus, which is responsible for memory. And if we think about, what happens with trauma, it's really, in a lot of ways, PTSD is a disorder of memory and of, time and awareness. So we get confused where we are in time. A flashback is literally, somebody is not sure, is it today or is it, back when the trauma happened? A trauma memory is stored very differently than most memory. We don't typically have flashbacks or intrusions to, what we had for breakfast last week. Things that are very neutral don't come back to us in the same way. But, these traumatic events are unexpected by nature. We can't predict them. The brain is not really prepared to make sense out of it. One of the co-occurring problems that can happen after a traumatic event, if somebody goes on to develop PTSD, they also can develop depression as well. And so major depressive disorder is extremely prevalent in people who have been traumatized. And we know that one of the symptoms of major depression is that people start to have thoughts of wanting to end their life, and then they may go on to actually attempt to do so. Why does this happen? Survivor's guilt is incredibly painful for many people. They might wonder, why am I still here when my best friend is not? Or a parent, how am I still here when my child is not? There's some stats about 50 million students are in public schools right now across the country. So while a school is objectively, logically, one of the safest places anybody can be, that doesn't necessarily mean that the fear goes away. And in fact, we know that the fear goes up after these kind of events. So some more recent stats have looked at how many kids, how many parents are afraid to go back to school after something like this happens. We're encouraging, we're validating, we're supporting, yet not colluding with avoidance. And being patient. It can still be a painful process to go through it. And so I think just having that support can mean a lot to the person who is suffering.